Welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show, where you'll learn how to grow your team today. Join Ken Trupke and his guests as they discuss what works and doesn't work to grow your team in today's world. And now, your host, Ken Trupke.
Hello, and welcome to the Clarity Advisor Show. Starting a business is challenging anytime, but especially at the start of a pandemic. In early 2020, with the marketplace requiring large-scale, decentralized healthcare services, my guest today saw the opportunity to address this need through custom healthcare services with a model that prioritized the nurses. He left his corporate job and started Healthbar, a group of nurses and nurse practitioners from a variety of backgrounds who believe that the highest level of healthcare is achieved through a combination of traditional and alternative medical approaches. Today, Healthbar provides medical services that address the issues of affordability, accessibility, personalization, and transparency in healthcare to fit the needs of the businesses they serve. And we will learn all about what that means in just a minute. Welcome, Nathan Baar. Nate, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ken. Great to be here.
All right, so let's jump right in with Healthbar. Tell us what you do and who you serve.
So Healthbar provides really the decentralized primary and preventative care model to businesses and K-12 schools, as well as families across the state of Michigan.
And what makes you guys unique? I talked in that intro about the alternative and traditional medical approaches and prioritizing nurses. What is it about your model that's so interesting?
Really what we're doing is taking a nursing-first approach to primary preventative care, which is different than what you'll traditionally see. Usually you'll see a physician-led organization taking more of a traditional primary care approach, which is facility-based. So you have a brick-and-mortar structure. You force people to come to you. You leverage existing insurance structures. We're all used to insurance and know, or maybe don't know how it works because it's terribly complicated. And for us, we looked at the model and really said, how do we take healthcare and bring it back to people? And so how do we do that without brick and mortar? How do we do that without building big structures? How do we do that without leveraging insurance as traditionally been done? And really looking at those two key things and then saying, how do we use nurses and nurse practitioners to be really the tip of the spear from our care delivery approach? And really that strategy was informed by a lot of the issues that I saw and directly experienced while I was working in the healthcare system. So and if anybody's interacted with healthcare, they know it's wildly complicated. There's no transparency, that you go see a provider and you might get a $500 bill, you might get a $100 bill, whether there's a copay or deductible, or even just trying to schedule a primary care appointment. You know, if you've tried lately, it's probably been 26, 30 days or more to go see your primary care doc. And when you go see them, you may only be with them for 5 minutes or 6 minutes. So we took all that. We said, you know what if we brought this to people? So what if we brought primary care into the workplace, into the school? And what if we removed the barriers of cost and that fear related to the lack of transparency? And what would that do to the care delivery experience? And so that's how we kind of tackled it. We go direct to businesses, direct to schools on site. We go to people's homes, interact virtually via phone and text as well, and really just make this level of concierge healthcare, but to your kind of everyday person.
Okay, so you're taking nurses and going to businesses or going to schools. Is that typically on an as-needed basis, or are you placing people there? So if it's a big enough business, maybe they've got a nurse on staff that's there the whole time. What's typically the model for you?
Yeah, usually it depends on sometimes the size of the organization or really the extent of that care need. So there's a lot of times where it makes sense for us to have an established on-site presence, 2, 3, 5 days a week. Sometimes people just need an as-needed healthcare advocate in their corner, and they want somebody to call when they need them. So it can really look a lot of different ways, and we've really thrived off of this customized approach in saying that everybody's healthcare needs are different, right? If you go and you need something, but then your friend or a neighbor, whoever else does, they're going to need a very different level of healthcare experience based on their own healthcare needs. So how do we get more to this precision medicine and really targeted approach? And that's very important to us as well. So yeah, the customization, it could look like many different things, on-site presence multiple days a week, or just need us a la carte and we'll come to see you when you need us. But that's the beauty. You strip away a lot of that, I would say, administrative waste that exists a lot, and really what everybody's experiencing with the cost of healthcare. It's not that clinicians are getting paid that much more. It's truly, there's just a lot of administrative waste in the system.
Okay. Well, and you serve essentially a two-sided marketplace. You've got businesses that need nurses and nurses that need businesses. So let's start with one side of that first. Let's talk about the nurses. How do you find, attract, and then retain those nurses to come and be part of Healthbar? And let's start with that side of it, and then we'll get to the business side.
Yeah, one of my passions, being a nurse myself, was having experienced, I think, the culture degradation that exists within the clinical workforce in hospitals, and how do I free nurses from some of that environment? It's unfortunate, but nurses have, fallen victim to a lot of the business practices of healthcare and really have become the brunt of that. And so what we're doing is creating opportunity for nurses to become independent of the healthcare system. Usually it's like only docs can do that. But really what we're doing is saying, you know what, there's a model that fits the need of our primary care shortage in this nation, but can be delivered by nurses. So how do we open that door to this clinical workforce that's so hungry, that is desiring this level of independence, and that wants to be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem anymore? And so that's our message. We say, hey, you know what? Come work for a fiercely independent nursing organization that's going to provide you a higher level of quality of life and purpose and meaning in your work, and help us really along this movement more so of what we think we're creating.
Okay, so staying on that then, so do people come in as W-2 employees, or are they 1099 contracted with you, or is it some of both? How does that model look?
A little bit of both. Yeah, we leverage the W-2 workforce in some of our accounts. And then in some of the work we do, because it is more of this a la carte, more service-based need, it can be more of a 1099 approach, where the clinicians picking up work in this gig-style economy, kind of like an Uber for nursing in a sense, to where, hey, we're going to go find work opportunities as an organization, and we're going to pair you as a nurse with that opportunity. Then you get to go out and be your own brand in a sense. Like, go out, do that work, go rock it, but do it independently. And that's really the cool part of it, is nurses start seeing themselves differently. They start seeing themselves as their own brand and as their own business owner and entrepreneur. And that's really, something that's special to me.
Yeah, this is so interesting. It's one of those models that, like, well, of course that makes sense, but it didn't until somebody did it. Let's jump over for a second to the business side then. So you got some nurses in the stable. How do you go find work for them? And how do you attract businesses to that other side of the platform?
Yeah, one of the things we realized early on was that the businesses were a central cog in the wheel when it comes to the healthcare experience. You wouldn't really think about it, but businesses have been put in this place of needing to provide healthcare to their teams. They have teams who have a wide variety of healthcare needs, and they've been going to traditional healthcare sources for this. We all know the cost is going up and access is going down and all the things. And so what we said is, what if we met that business with a solution that both decreased their medical costs, which is going to be beneficial to this business? What if it also enhanced their employees' access to healthcare and acted as this concierge level healthcare benefit to their team? And so we created this solution that is more of this direct-to-employer product, that it's hard to find something that's truly a win-win-win. And this is a win for the employee, this is a win for the business, and this is a win for our clinicians and our organization as we deploy our resources. So it's beneficial on every single angle. And we found that employer is really the core component of accessing these populations.
So traditionally then, we've got at businesses, you've got a health insurance program that the employer is going to offer. So with Healthbar, are you instead of those traditional health insurance plans, or are you in addition to and somehow helping the employees to work with both?
Yeah, a little both. I mean, I think if you remember back to when we were all mandated to carry some level of insurance and there was a penalty, right? So those penalties went away. So not everybody carries a traditional insurance product anymore. Most do, but many don't. If you go a layer deeper, a business has to offer healthcare benefits to its workforce. If it has greater than 50 FTEs, it's a mandate. So you at least have to offer something to them. Now, if you look at the level of adoption of what that business has to offer to their workforce, that's even less. So some employers pay 100% of their healthcare benefits, which is incredible. Some pay the minimum, 50% of that portion of the premium. So we'll see all these different dynamics playing out, and that's a whole 5-hour conversation on that end of it. But on this end, what we've really found is that businesses will offer healthcare to their teams, traditional insurance products. They can leverage them and use them as they'd like. A lot of the employees decline that coverage, and so employers, what they're doing is offering our healthcare solution in combination to their traditional healthcare benefits. But we're seeing that the employer offers us to all their employees for free. So the employer will subsidize our costs. Thus, it's a benefit to their entire workforce, but at a fraction of the cost. And then you get this really nice concierge healthcare experience as part of that. So we are a layer above traditional insurance, but the work we do actually makes the business's insurance products cheaper because we're reducing their risk profile and utilization.
Okay, so one last question on this. I find this model fascinating. So then would, in the case where Healthbar is involved, whether exclusively or in complementary to a traditional health insurance plan, are typically our employees' families able to utilize Healthbar clinicians as well?
Yeah, that's the really cool part. And we realized early on too, we're like, we can go towards the employee as the primary utilizer of our services, but what if we could expand this to spouses and dependents as well? And so that's where we landed is this is not only a benefit to that individual employee, but let's extend it out to that spouse and dependent. So this is a whole family solution, caring for individuals. Like I said, we operate in the school environments anyways, so we already do pediatric care, and then we work through into that business environment through the adult ages, and so we can offer healthcare services to the entire spectrum. And yeah, that's been it's life-changing for some people. I mean, to really who haven't had preventative screenings and exams or really an understanding of basic health principles. I mean, I think we all learn in school the food pyramid, and that's our extensive health knowledge. It's not much, but when you start talking to people like, what if you sleep better? And what if you're not a triathlete, but what if you walk every day? And what if you take an extra hour off of technology to be mindful and to think? And so some of these very basic health practices impacts mental health, impacts your, chronic diseases, hypertension and diabetes. The impacts are, significant.
All right, great. So back to the idea that of the two-sided marketplace. So which tends to be more challenging for you as the business owner, finding those businesses or finding the clinicians?
Yeah, I think we found right now, a very good balance. We have a very strong clinical talent pipeline along with finding the business opportunities. One of the things we're finding, though, is that the healthcare experience is so broken in the United States right now that there are too many things to fix. And so we're orienting our services towards these business opportunities, but then we're having people ask about this and that. And it's like, okay, well, here's 3 other businesses that should be created to address this one problem. We use a system called EOS, the Entrepreneurial Operating System, and it's about what's your core focus. And so for us, our core focus is oriented around those businesses and schools and that home experience. But the amount of need that is presented that doesn't necessarily fit that core focus is immense. And so that's where what we're trying to do is take those needs that we can grab onto, present those to the clinical community that we've networked with, and say, is there a solution that we can start looking at? Can we create other businesses from this central solution and have other clinical providers latch onto them and run with it? Because we don't joke with ourselves. We're not going to fix this problem ourselves. This is a problem that's going to take everybody to fix. But can we be a central moving cog of that wheel and present these solutions? We definitely can do that.
Yeah. All right. Good deal. Well, I want to go back in time and understand a little bit of your background and what led you up to doing this, especially starting a business in the pandemic. And we'll do that on the other side of the break. Stay with us on the Clarity Advisor Show, and we'll be right back.
Is your business where you want it to be or on track to get there?
Clarity Advisors helps business leaders improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success. We specialize in helping you streamline your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Call or text Ken at 616-822-2998 to have a complimentary 12-minute call to see what some clarity could do for you.
Okay, welcome back to the Clarity Advisor Show. Today we're talking with Nate Baar, the founder and CEO of Healthbar, which is a company transforming medicine, at least in a local area. But Nate, take us back to your earlier career. You're a nurse by training. Walk us through some of that and then what led you to starting a business.
Yeah, early on, grew up here in West Michigan, born and raised here, went to college here, got my trainings, and really the experiences that I had along my career path. So I worked as a nurse's aide in a nursing home, then became a nurse and worked in the emergency department. The ER is an extremely dynamic environment where you're constantly tasked with solving problems. You get really good at solving problems and having no idea what's coming through that door. So you got to know what to do and when and what strings to pull really quick. And so it was a trial by fire, but I really, attribute a lot of my learnings and knowledge and the way I think about healthcare, orienting around that ER experience. And so, learning that and doing that, and then getting my master's in healthcare administration and really climbing that corporate ladder in a healthcare system and experiencing and seeing the internal dynamics of how healthcare as a business is run in combination of being a clinician, just opened a lot of doors in my mind of like, well, here's the problem that I'm hearing from my staff and from my patients, and here's the discussions happening around in a boardroom. Why are we not doing this versus going here? And so my mind started thinking about solutions, because that's how my mind started working in the ER. Was like, there's a problem, I got to fix it. And what I started thinking about was I have all these people coming to us as a healthcare system with these really basic healthcare needs, as well as exacerbations of these conditions. And if they had access to a clinical provider that they could just ask a question about how to take a medication, or I'm feeling this way, what should I do? All the way to, prescription refills and somebody just checking in on them, quite honestly. The power of those simple interventions in this primary and preventative care world would just be immense. And so just took all those learnings really and said, we should really be looking at getting to people. And then I was like, well, how do you access large groups of people? I can go out there and hunt one person, one family at a time. But what if we went to businesses and schools that already have thousands of people associated with them and use that as the mechanism to access these populations? And so that's kind of the history and the formation of how my mind kind of, stepped up into creating what Healthbar is. Early on in the business, I launched it in May of 2020, and we all know what was going on in May of 2020. It wasn't pretty. And everybody needed something related to COVID. And so we came out with this decentralized healthcare solution, and we were a mobilized clinical workforce. And so we did a lot of COVID work related to that. It was necessary in the time, but never lost sight of the desire to bring this more advanced medical system to these groups.
Well, it seems like I remember talking with you even at the time that it was a good opportunity because businesses had a very acute need for testing. If your business was still open, if we remember back to that spring, summer of 2020, a lot of businesses, if you're open, you had to have some kind of testing at the door. And that was typically, nobody was equipped to do that. So it seems like a great opportunity to have these clinicians come to a business and kind of start the model there of, well, what if we have clinicians come to a business and deliver services at the business that, for whatever reason now they need really urgently. So it was in a way, it was a great time to start this business.
Yeah, if you think about the simplicity of that task of doing a temperature screen or a COVID test or something else, it's not much. But if you think about what that does over time, so now I'm interacting with this individual weeks over weeks, and now I have a relationship with them, and now they trust me, and now we start like, well, what else can I help you with? And so it naturally evolved through that relationship that was created during that time to help us achieve our strategy. And that's the beauty, I think, of our current model and what we do so well is we position ourselves to really be the quarterback of that person's medical journey and experience. So we're not going to maybe do all the services ourselves, but can I help you schedule an appointment or access the right provider or be an advocate for you? That's all touch points in that healthcare experience that really acts very similarly to doing a temperature screening every day, right? It establishes a touch point in a relationship and trust. And so that's really what we found is in any opportunity, whether it's COVID testing or whether it's, advising someone through a very complex health condition, it's an opportunity to make an impact and change a life.
Yeah. Well, while I've got your head back in 2020, walk me through some of the things you learned as a first-time entrepreneur starting up a business. What are some of the lessons from those early days?
It definitely is not the hospital system. It's weird when you're working in a large institution that has seemingly endless sums of money in pockets. You never think about finances, and you ever think about maybe some of the legal considerations or HR or these things. I'm working, with all these things around me, and I'm focusing on one thing or so. Whereas as a business owner and entrepreneur, you're wearing every single hat. So I am the director of finance. I'm the director of legal. I am the director of operations, as well as the visionary and all these other functions. And so you have to really understand how to be in each of those functions as an entrepreneur and to do each of those together to a point where you're able to hand them off. And that's one of the harder things is as an entrepreneur, as I learned, you can do a lot of this stuff by yourself, but you're only going to get so far. So when is the right time to start bringing on the right people to do those right roles? And so for me, it was finding those individuals early that I think has led to a lot of our success and ability to grow and scale is taking that, legal hat off and taking that sales hat off and taking the operations hat off and being able to do more of what, I find a passion and a purpose within the organization. But it's a crash course. I mean, it is a crash course. It felt a lot like being, a first year nurse in the ER is you're getting thrown into the fire and you're going to sink or swim. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs not going in, if they go in and they think this is going to be easy and they're going to have all the answers, they're setting themselves for failure. And so I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs and just say, surround yourself with the right people. Know you're going to get your butt kicked and you're going to be wrong a lot. And be humble enough to accept that and to learn. You got to have that growth-oriented mindset of maybe you're the founder, great. And now you have that CEO title on, cool. But you got to have the humility to accept a lot of feedback and learn a lot of things, because the moment you think you know it all, you're gonna find yourself on a roller.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so many good lessons and all that there. So you had to build your team from scratch. I mean, you had this idea, maybe a couple friends that were practitioners that you thought you get on the supply side of the equation, but you needed to build out everything else. So walk me through some of that process and how you made the decisions of who those first couple hires were and in what order you took some of that.
Yeah. I had benefited from having a career in healthcare, up to this point. So 12, 13, 14 years in health systems, creating relationships with people. I'm a firm believer, you never burn bridges. So I don't know if I'm going to need to talk to that person in the future again, but maybe I will. And so I want to make sure I leave all of these relationships in a good spot if we don't interact for another 10 years, or maybe it's tomorrow. So that was my mentality my whole career, going through the system. So what I did, it was a team of one. Yep, it was me to start. But then I reached out to my healthcare colleagues and I said, hey, I'm doing this. We work together. This may sound crazy, but can you trust me? And come on. And so we leveraged that, W-2 and 1099 combination. A lot of my early employees were people that I worked with in the health system and trusted. Whether or not, and it was cross healthcare system. I don't think people realize how connected the healthcare community is beyond the hospital you work in. So I heard people from Spectrum, and I heard people from Trinity, and I heard people from U of M West. You kind of got your pick of the talent. And so, yeah, just leverage those relationships. I think, continue to, treat people well. don't burn bridges, and then viewing that on everybody else that we brought on to create that culture within the organization too. And so I really think we can be viewed as, and will continue to in the future, as a premier nursing organization that is leading this charge. And that's something that we're very proud of.
Yeah. So for your operating team specifically, when did you bring on the salesperson or the accounting person, or you mentioned legal? Like, what was the order of operations there for building out your team? Not necessarily the clinicians or the businesses, but that internal core team.
Yeah, I am stronger in operations than I am in some other functions. So I sat in that operations seat for a little bit longer. So my first kind of key hire was our director of sales and marketing. I brought him on, Mike Lamonaco, in April 21. And then in the fall of 21, I brought on our director of operations to really, for me, the organization was getting complex enough and I needed to be doing different functions. And so letting that go, and that was, but being one of my strengths, I was able to hold on to that a little bit longer. But then bringing on established HR manager and then service line managers to further reinforce our products. So it was, for me, I knew what my strengths were. And so I held on to those functions longer and hired into the things I wasn't as strong in, which that sales and marketing side to start the organization. But I would say, within a year of starting the business, I started to bring on some key individuals.
Yeah, that's terrific. I just love the origin stories of how people start from themselves, the one-man show, having to do all the things, and then you start getting big enough that you need some help on one area, and it's often you're not quite there to a full-time spot, but you still need to get another person in, and then hope that the business continues to grow into that size, and then you get there, and then you need yet the next person in the next function, and meanwhile you're shedding those roles as you go, so that you can continue to kind of level yourself up to maintain that CEO working on the business, not so much in the business kind of role. I just love hearing how people tackle that challenge. So, I'm curious, as a trained nurse, do you still do any nursing? Are you ever the clinician that goes to the business or to the school?
Early on, it was me. And over those years, as I've handed off functions and kind of elevated in my own position, I've done less and less clinical work. Still will, part of the reason why, and part of the components of our products was how family and friends use you for clinical services, right? They know you're a clinical provider, a clinician, and so like, hey, you could do that. And so you help them out with it. So I still do that stuff personally for family. But a lot of the other clinical components of what we do is done by our clinical teams now. I still maintain, for me, being a nurse, a licensed nurse, is extremely important. And so keeping up with continuing education and recertifying licensure and all that is extremely important. So still doing that, but I think also realizing there are nurses out there who are way more skilled than I am at this stage with the work that we're doing. And so how do I optimize what I'm good at right now, which is, leading the organization and growing it and spreading the message, and allow them then to do what they do best, which is take care of people. And so, it's been different. I will say, not having that part of my professional life built up still, but it's something that I still will stay connected.
Yeah. Well, you've got such a passion for, I don't want to necessarily say reforming, although maybe that's the right word, reforming the healthcare system. And there's just, like you said, so many places that need fixing, but you can't tackle it all, but you got to start somewhere. I love your heart for this work. And I know that drove you to start your own podcast. So tell me about that.
Yeah, it's something where I've always looked at, like, how do we continue to spread the message and enhance the movement that we're on? And so we embarked on our own podcast journey called Healthy Business Matters. Myself and then a colleague, Dr. Andrew White, both see healthcare and its dysfunction similarly, and are both using the business environments to scale those solutions. And so we've been forging ahead. Just recorded our 11th episode a couple of weeks ago. We'll be continuing to record on from here. And so we're excited. It'll be a lot of fun to spread our passion and mission through that podcast. And honestly, our journeys as we go. I think that's one of the cool things is we're we're living it, we're experiencing it week over week, day over day. And so as we're recording these episodes, we'll share. I'm an open book. I think people see a lot of stuff like this and they're like, oh, you got to protect that through a trademark and a trade secret and everything else. Like, I see more of this as like an open source solution to where we'll build it and we'll show you exactly how we're doing it. If you want to replicate it, great, because we need everybody doing this. It can't just be us. So instead of having this fear-based approach of trying to guard intellectual property with this, like, there's nothing too crazy about it. Our system is our system, and it's about relationships. So if you can do that well, I love it. Like, I'll be right behind you doing it. So that's our mentality. Let's share the wealth. Let's share the knowledge. Let's share the experience. Be along this journey with us, and let's multiply.
Yeah, I love that. Instead of trying to divide the pie, why don't we grow the pie, and then there's more for everybody? It's an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. I love that. So Nate, this has been fantastic. I feel like the audience has learned a lot about not only Healthbar and how you're taking on some of the challenges in the medical profession, but just how to start a business and how to start a business during a pandemic. And it's been great. So I'm thinking there's several kinds of people that should reach out to you, whether that might be clinicians who are looking to be part of this, or businesses that might need some services, or entrepreneurs looking for some advice or a comrade. So who should reach out to you, and what's the best way for them to do that?
The list you just rattled off is perfect. I love talking with business leaders, CEOs, CFOs, people in HR, insurance agents or agencies who are looking to better strategize on how they support their businesses that they're, writing policies for and getting coverages for. Clinical workforce. I mean, I just absolutely love talking with clinicians about what we're doing and how they can do it too. That it's not impossible for a nurse to start their own business. And then entrepreneurs. I mean, I lived it. I want to share my experiences to help people, miss the, or not miss the things that I missed and learn those hard lessons. Sometimes you got to get the knocks, but you can avoid them, and let's still learn the lesson. It's a good thing. So any of those and all of the above, just anybody who's curious about what we're doing, I'm happy to share that message.
Great. And what would be the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah, healthbar.com has our business information on it. I leverage LinkedIn a lot, so follow me on LinkedIn, Nathan Baar. It's one of the things where I'll spread our message and a lot of my thoughts and opinions on the community. You can also reach out info@healthbar.com to get general information on our business.
Terrific. Well, we'll get those links in the show notes. Nate, this has again been fantastic. I so appreciate you sharing what you've been doing and how you're doing it. It's been really interesting and informative, and I just want to thank you for your time.
Thanks, Ken. No, it's been a lot of fun.
You're welcome. It's been a treat. Okay, and that brings us to the end of another Clarity Advisor show. If you would be so kind as to leave an honest, hopefully 5-star review on the platform where you are watching or listening right now, that would be tremendous. And we will see you next time on the Clarity Advisor show.
Thank you for listening to the Clarity Advisor show. Clarity Advisors is a speaking, training, and consulting firm specializing in helping you simplify your sales and operating systems to improve efficiency and grow your profits. Connect with Clarity Advisors today to learn more about how they can help you improve communication and get your team aligned and engaged for greater success.